Are you looking for an online supplier and looking perhaps to support this channel? Then we recommend Overlord Games. We've been using Overlord Games to purchase kits for our own private collection and importantly in bulk for many commissions for a long time now, and we have created an affiliate link with them. Follow the link in the description below to check out Overlord Games. They've got all the major games that everybody likes to play, and they've got the kind of prices that everybody likes to pay. And as commission painters, we found that we can go to them directly for any kind of project that we might have in mind and ask them to scour suppliers to see what is available. So if you have got a little project that you want to get together and a faceless website isn't working, then maybe you need to get in touch with Overlord Games. And of course you'll be supporting us directly to make more and better quality videos on this channel. Thanks for your time. Welcome back to the channel, folks, and to look at another completed project. Though when I say completed, it's not quite there, because this is just the line infantry elements of the Black Powder Epic Battles British Infantry Brigade for the Waterloo campaign. I still have the rifle bases to paint for this and the cannon bases, but I'm taking a little bit of a break just now to do some really, boring painting. With sort of a 2-inch brush, like doing the DIY and home decoration. Can't put that off any longer, so I thought I'll share the line infantry with you just now so you can have a look at where the project's going. Now these are a lot smaller than what I'm used to, even though it's kind of in the same kind of ballpark. When you just go down just that little bit in height, it's incredible how much more strain there is on the eyes and how much more difficulty there is to find all the detail and to really try and make it pop. I don't paint a lot of Napoleonics, certainly not in recent years, but I have had some experience of it in the past, and detailing is very important. Details such as even just the colours of the uniform, finding the right colours when your colour palette is perhaps more orientated towards the drab colours of World War II. We're looking for brighter Napoleonic colours here, and then we also have to make sure that we're using the right facing colours, the right lace colours and such likes for the cuffs and the collars, all those kind of details, and that's where a little bit of research will go a long way. Now I started recording a painting tutorial for these, but it was very difficult. They're so small and they're on the relatively long bases that they kept moving in and out of focus as I was moving the base around in my hand, to paint one figure to the next, to the next, and to the next. I'm going to have another go at recording a tutorial in due course, see if I can get around the focus elements or try and just get the camera in a certain way and keep the strip of figures posed in a certain way that I can keep things in focus so you can actually see what's happening, because you'll need the focus with them being so small. But what I'll do now is I'll get some still pictures up and go over the painting challenges of these very small but finely detailed figures, tell you what colours I used and the approach that I took. Whilst I'm going through the painting process, I might as well have in the background, so to speak, some of the not so good quality video footage that I recorded. You'll see the image going in and out of focus at key points. Anyway, the best start is a coat of black all over. Now that black is important because there's a lot of black from the shoes right up to the shackles on these figures, so you're saving yourself quite a lot of time there. It also serves as a good backstop, as I would describe it. Not so much a shade coat, because I don't want black to be on this figure as shade because they're so small that it can really dominate, but if you miss something, then the black's there as a safety net, so to speak. You're not going to be leaving any exposed plastic. And I'm going to be following my usual layering approach from that point. So for the trousers, I'm going to be using a shade coat of German grey and then a main coat of basalt grey. And then for the tunics, I'm going to be using a shade coat of burnt cadmium red and a main coat of red. And let's just use the same grey for the bedroll, though you could choose different colours if you wanted a bit of variety. When you're painting some of the figures, especially the tunics, you may find that there are little mistakes made because there's such small areas to get the brush into. And if you do, well, that's fine, just keep working through, because it's going to be the black areas that you're going to be getting a bit of extra paint on. So you can very easily go in and correct all of that when the other main colours are all completed. Now the bags that they all carry on their hip, I gave that a shade coat of German Camo Black Brown and then a main coat of Old Wood. The water bottles, I used a light blue colour. For the muskets, use a dark brown colour. I used chocolate brown, anything similar will do. And then the metallic areas on the musket, I gave a touch up to the black base coat that we've used, and then used a light grey colour on the barrel of the musket, the flintlock such as it could be seen, and on the bayonet. Though of course you could just use metallic paint for this, but just remember the important thing of using that little shade layer that we've put on to help provide shape and definition. You know, that tiny little black line that we're going to leave is really going to help make that detail pop. Now don't forget that there are Light Company figures and Grenadier Company figures on some of the strips. Light Company on the right as you're looking at them, Grenadier Company on the left. You can tell by the wings on the shoulders. If you want to look into the detailing of these figures more, you can do some online searches, refer to some printed resources that you might have yourself, or just go by the box art. Then of course there are the facings and the lace that goes with that. This is quite a complicated issue if you're looking for accuracy. So what I've done here to help is I've put a link to a website that I found that's in the description below, and that might help you get something accurate. What I would say is paint it brightly, don't necessarily paint it dark, because especially blues will just end up looking like blacks at the scale, so compensate just a bit. Now for the skin, I didn't try to do anything very detailed here. I didn't try to paint the fingers and the face in a layered way. I just used my standard flesh colour and then put a sort of dark red wash over it. And now on to highlighting. I didn't want to highlight all the figures all over, because a lot of them are not really going to be seen. The detail we've painted on is sufficient to make them stand out strongly on the base and as a unit. So I just highlighted the front of the front rank and the back of the back rank. Oh, and the front and back of the figures at the end of each rank. So if you look at the open end, so to speak, then you will still see the highlights there. Now you have to keep your highlights very small and appropriate to the size of the minis themselves, otherwise they're really going to dominate. For the red, I used a really bright colour, a red orange. For the greys, I used just London grey, a sort of middle of the road light grey. For the blacks, I used German grey. And to finish, let's talk about the straps and any white buckles. I gave them all a shade coat of grey. There's a lot of them cross and intersect, so that grey is going to be very useful to provide shape at the crossing points. Then white or off-white, just painted over the top of it, and not leaving too much of that grey, because we just need a tiny little bit to help define the shape. And your choice of brush, well, you should be looking for a thin brush. Obviously a small brush, but a small thin one, not a small round one. If you were painting everything by hand, for instance including the undercoat, and not using an airbrush, well, you're going to use a bigger brush to get that initial layer down, but otherwise use a thin brush that will be able to get into all the nooks and crannies and also closely follow all the little lines that you're going to be painting on. And here are the finished units with the flags in place as well, folks, which always really sets off a Napoleonic unit. And you can notice here there's not too much of that black undercoat showing at all. We don't want them looking too dark. They're so small that you really need the figures to pop. You know, you need those bright colours, and the black elements help that in respect of giving a bit of focus around which the bright colours can pop. There is a lot of work required for these, but I think you'll agree you can get them looking really nice. Now, with the small size of these figures, I also had to think about how I was going to base them. Couldn't really use static grass because static grass is, relative to them, really quite tall. Even a short static grass, it's going to be very challenging to find something that looks in scale and also to get right into the space between the ranks. So I went into the deepest, darkest corners of my basing box and came out with some old flock. I've got several bags of this kicking about from, I kid you not, these must be in the region of 30 years old, these bags. But this material, this flock, works very well. It's very, very fine. It has no height to it as such, but still gives the look of grass and ground cover. And it comes in so many different shades that you'll definitely find the one that you would like to use yourself. This one, by the way, is Spring Green, scatter number 71, if that number is actually still valid. But to be honest, of all the things in society that are dependable, I think Java's Scenics are dependable because you can still buy all these bags in modelling shops. Now, for a bit of variety and a little bit of a height, I've used this Gale Force 9 product. This is, let me see, Flock Blend Dark Conifer. Basically, it's little crunched up bits of clump foliage with some very small bits of static grass and then little bits of multicoloured flock. It's got a dark green finish, contrasts very nicely with the light green that I've chosen for the flock, and just gives a little bit of bulk, you know, makes it look like a little bit of gorse or something on the ground, and really helps focus the eye on the bases so it's not just one colour across a whole lot. That's usually not very attractive. You normally need a bit of variety, but with these being so small, you have to think carefully about what that variety is going to be, and this works a treat and it's really quick. And incidentally, getting this flock on is very quick too. You just carefully paint, white glue all around and in between, and then pour it on. It's as simple as that. So folks, I hope you found that interesting and maybe something that you've been thinking about yourself in terms of a project. I have got a few more still to do. I've got cavalry, I have got the Highlander infantry box set for Waterloo too. So there'll be artillery to paint, as I said, the riflemen to paint, horses to paint. I'll do my best to get my camera set up right so we can have some painting tutorials so you can see how to get this detailed look on such small figures. Hopefully you found it interesting, folks. If you'd like to contact us about any painting commissions, the email address is on screen just now. Get in touch with us and we'll give you an idea of price and completion time dependent on details of the project you have in mind. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more painting guides, battle reports and finished projects. And if you've not already done so, you might want to hit the subscribe button and the bell button, because that means we'll definitely see you all on the next one.